Oh yeah, no, they're going. All right, so thanks again, Max. I appreciate you coming on. This is our second episode. Very excited to have you
Number
as the
two,
speaker
baby.
on this one. Yep, we had
Second
Ron on
is
the
the
first
best.
one. Oh yeah.
Right? First is the worst. Second is the best.
Don't say that to Ron.
Number three's got to have a hairy chest.
Yeah, we'll see who we pull on for that one. But yeah, so Max with Kuda Cannabis here. If you want to give a little story about kind of how Kuda got started and how you got started up in Humboldt in the first place. I personally know, how long and all that you've been up there, but if you want to give a
Yeah, well,
little
let's
synopsis.
start with just how I got going in cannabis in general.
Yeah.
It was 2006, and I just had graduated high school, and I was living in Cleveland, Ohio, and I wanted to go, out to the West Coast. I had to get out of Cleveland. Um, and so a friend of mine, this hippie kid, was like, dude, you should check out this place, Humboldt. Like, there's a school there. It's super cool in the forest. It's totally your vibe. You'd love it. Um, so I checked it out, applied. They had this environmental resource engineering program, which is actually esteemed. It's now Cal Poly Humboldt,
Yep.
a little more prestigious than when I went there. And it was funny because I came out with my dad, and I remember like we had a newspaper, and I was like, it was like 40 lights busted and all these pound seized. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. You don't ever see like pot busts in Cleveland, Ohio. But
Yeah.
here it is, front page of the Times Standard in Humboldt. And my dad scoffed at it. But when I moved out to Humboldt, I had no idea about what Humboldt was, how impactful it was in the cannabis industry, at that time and for the inception of cannabis and all that stuff. So sure enough, I get kicked out of the dorms for a mushroom possession charge back in the forest. So, me and a couple friends got this little house, and a friend of mine had like a 400 watt, you know, metal halide grow lamp that he wasn't
Yeah.
using. He let me borrow. So I set that up in my closet, must have been like a 3 by 2 foot space, and I grew a pot of gold and an amethyst plant.
Nice.
Which, man, the amethyst was an amazing. I mean, both those strains are probably super low testers and don't really have much of a place in the current
Yeah.
cannabis market. But I grew those two plants, and I ended up doing a road trip, and that's when I met Ronick of Devi for the first time out in Montana.
Yep.
He had some of his infamous Ron's Lemon Diesel, and so I traded him some nugs of pot of gold and amethyst for some of his diesel. And we ended up forming a friendship over that. So I went from a little tiny grow in there to Ron came out, and we set up this room in the laundry room, which wasn't much bigger. It was like an 8 foot by 6 foot room, and we called it Ground Zero because we packed in like 4 lights. And we built these stupid little beds, and we grew these plants that were like this big, and they were just covered in spider mites, and it was just we probably harvested like a couple ounces per light.
You were
It's like,
doing it big back then.
yeah, it was the worst thing you could have possibly imagined. Um, but we kept going, obviously. So from there, I ended up setting up some indoor grows.
Hmm.
And this was back. I remember the first like good harvest was Blue Dream and Purple Mr. Nice.
Okay.
And
Nice.
I had like a 16 lighter setup or something, and grew
Yeah.
like 20 pounds or something. So
Yeah.
back then, I got a little more than a pound per light. It was like amazing, and
Yeah.
I remember going to sell them, and I wanted to get 3,800 a pound.
Hmm.
And a guy came back and offered me 36, and you take everything. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But, after that, it was just like all of a sudden, from not too much of an input, I got this crazy return, right? This is back when
Yeah.
cannabis was so good. That's part of my story that I feel like it's sad because you couldn't do it anymore, right?
No.
Like if you
No.
want to get into cannabis now, you have to have all this money and, have the
Huge
setup.
facilities. Yeah.
And
Everything.
I
Dialed
bootstrapped
SOPs.
exactly. Like I bootstrapped it together with, a couple $1,000 and was able to
Yeah.
produce, $30,000 worth, forty
Yeah,
thousand
when you're
dollars.
20 years old. Like,
Yeah, I was like, what? I got all this cash. I don't know what to do with it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, little did I know. Um, but yeah, after that, I ended up meeting a friend of mine who was setting up a place in Burnt Ranch. So I kept doing the indoor thing and I set up my first outdoor grow in Burnt Ranch, which is in Trinity County.
Yep. I was gonna say that's
And
just east of you.
yeah, exactly. I ran that for 2 years. At that point, when I was doing it, all of a sudden I'm making all this money. I'm looking at engineering school and I'm like, what am I going to
Yeah.
do? Like work and I had this specific course where I kind of like dawned on me what environmental engineering would be about, which
Yeah.
is mostly kind of paper pushing, bureaucratic nonsense, appeasing environmental agencies.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really like my passion or what I wanted to do. I was kind of more of like the let's save the planet type of vibe.
Yeah.
So I dropped out and just went full bore on the growing. Um, so after the 2 seasons in Burnt Ranch, I kind of mustered enough of a nest egg to purchase, my own property.
Yeah.
And serendipitously, while I was going to purchase that, I was going to go home for the winter and help my dad with some projects. So I loaded up this big grow dozer, 2,500 lifted Dodge diesel,
Oh,
California
oh
plates,
yeah.
long hair. I was going to sneak back a couple ounces in the dog food, thinking I was smart. Of
Yeah.
course, right in Rapid City, South Dakota,
Yeah.
I get totally profiled, pulled over, and the cop just tore me apart. I was so dumb. I had like a little tube of joints in my pocket. When I went into his cruiser, I just stunk the place to high heaven. So, I mean, he didn't even need to bring the dogs.
Yeah.
And, they arrested me, the whole nine, cannabis charge. Um, and then in jail, which was a very uncomfortable place, I promised my dad, that I'm going to go and finish my degree upon him helping bail me out and getting me out of this legal trouble.
Yeah.
So true to my word, I did that. I went back to school, kind of like part time, but continued the full time cultivation stuff. And
Yeah.
this is obviously pre recreational in California, so it was all
Yeah.
under medical guidelines, um, which, as you know, was kind of this oblique gray area.
Oh, super.
Uh, so we thought we were all legal and good to go, but I don't think the law enforcement necessarily felt that way.
No.
And so on the farms that I had up in Neeland, turned out one of our neighbors was a Humboldt County sheriff,
That
and
Todd?
Todd Fulton, yeah,
Yeah.
drug.
Good old Todd.
You can watch what is it, Pot Cops, or he's on one of those.
No, he's on Murder Mountain.
Yeah, he is on Murder Mountain, but there was a show that Discovery did. It only aired a couple
Oh,
episodes, and
really? I
then
didn't know that. I just
they
know he's on
pulled
Murder Mountain and just
yeah,
just
he's
I
got a
always liked
camera.
Todd though. Todd was a good
Yeah,
guy.
he's a good guy. I mean,
Yeah.
now we have a great relationship, but
Yeah.
back then when we were the new kids on the block growing a bunch
Yeah.
of pot back in his neck of the woods, he didn't take too kindly to that,
No.
and ended up raiding one of the farms,
Yep.
and then they came back twice. We replanted, of course. They
Yep.
came back, cut us down again. A few years later, the other farm got raided.
Yeah.
Um, so it was kind
What's
of
a
a miracle.
what's a cut down like?
Oh, well, back then they were just total, assholes. So
Yeah.
they would just come in, guns blazing, destroying your property and equipment. I remember them just like throwing all this stuff into the porta potty, like running the side by side off the road, letting it roll. I remember while the boys were telling me while they were tied up, they're sitting there with the golf clubs, like swinging golf balls off the side of the mountain. And then they would just take knives to your tarps and just,
Oh yeah.
just
Just saw them up.
exactly, just destroying property.
Yeah.
Unethical behavior on their
Hmm.
behalf. But I think their goal is like, let's financially damage these guys as much as they can so they don't come back. And back
Yeah.
then it was a game of whack-a-mole. In Humboldt County, they estimated 8 to 10,000, illegal cannabis farms. So
Hmm.
do the math on, the growing season and how many days they have to actually do cut down
Yeah.
and how many farms can you hit in the day,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, maybe you guys can get, 500, 600 farms in a year.
Yeah.
Well, you
Maybe
got it
that's if that. I mean,
exactly. You got
that's
eight,
yeah.
eight
That's
to
that's
ten
wishful
thousand
thinking.
of them, so you're not putting in much of a dent, right?
No,
You're maybe getting 5% of the grows every
you had
year.
good odds for sure.
Yeah, but the odds weren't in my favor. I got rated 4 times.
Really?
Uh, yeah, absolutely. Which is part of the reason why when 2017 hit and recreational cannabis became an option,
Hmm.
I was full bore. Let's get everything legal. Let's do this
Yeah.
by the book. I don't. The post traumatic stress and anxiety that I have from getting raided and the legal troubles was through the roof.
Yeah.
Probably contributed, to some drug problems I had later in life. Um, but because of those legal problems, is why I was like, let's do this by the book
Yeah.
now. Like, I want to set this up, and from that vantage point, you quickly realize what you're up against when you're
Hmm.
looking at a legal, regulated industry. You know, Now you're playing with big ag and well-resourced individuals who are going to be putting professional botanists on the job and what have
Yeah.
you. So I kind of realized, like, well, Humboldt's at a disadvantage, even though this is the place that, like, indoor cultivation was stemmed out of, and
Yeah.
most of the cannabis pre 2012 or whatever was coming from Humboldt County,
Yeah.
the
Northern
Emerald
California,
County,
all there. Yeah.
exactly, because it's tucked away up in the woods. They're hard to access, remote places.
Oh yeah.
And we have a weather pattern here that is very conducive for outdoor cannabis growth.
Hmm.
One of the reasons why I think, you're not able to produce outdoor cannabis just anywhere.
No.
We have a wet season and a dry season. So it rains all winter long. And in the summertime, it's hot and dry. You don't get any rain.
Yeah.
Basically, you look at like precipitation, for the summer months and when you would be flowering and harvesting, and it's, pretty close to 0 inches of precipitation.
Yeah.
So because of that climate dynamic, it lends to this being an amazing place for outdoor cultivation.
Yeah.
And where we're located, being kind of close to the coast,
Yeah.
you get a lot of the fog and marine layer, which actually is in your benefit
Hmm.
because cannabis plants actually don't like the high intensity UV
Hmm.
that you would get further inland. Um, a lot of the places that are really hot now, the people who know what they're doing are using shade cloth. So
Yeah.
they're actually reducing the amount of sunlight that a plant is getting, which, is benefiting the plants, getting higher terpenes, better yields, better
Oh yeah.
growth,
No, I
etc.
remember I remember seeing the big difference just between flowers in Neeland and like flowers over from like Highway 36 and
Yeah,
and even just a
absolutely.
little bit more east over there. I mean, it's crazy. And your spot is, you have I think you have one of the best spots, just, perfect height, perfect elevation, everything. Like you said, right there. I don't know how many miles, but I think it's about what 10, 11 lateral or direct miles from the coast.
I think it's like 22 or something like
Oh,
that,
really? Yeah.
as the crow flies or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But either
Yeah.
way, yes, pretty close to the coast, but not too close, because you get too close to the coast, now
And
there's
super
way
wet, yeah.
exactly, there's too much moisture and you're gonna get a lot of mold and bud rot.
Yeah.
Um, so it's in that little Goldilocks zone, I would
Yeah.
say, for outdoor cannabis production.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's kind of my story of how I got into the cannabis industry and was able to make it to the legal actual business standing. It was kind of like one step after the other, going
Mhm.
all in year after year. until, we've gotten to today where, I'm managing 2 farms, ended up selling a couple,
Yep.
and got the distribution and the brand going.
Yep.
So the other thing with legalization I realize is like, hey, we're going to need a means to actually sell this stuff. If we're going to be doing it legal, I want to do it legal.
Yeah.
I don't want to say, oh, I have this legal farm, and then my whole goal is just to black market sell everything. That was
No,
not,
it's not the
that
move.
that's not the move. It's not the point, right? If you're going to do
Yeah.
that, you might as well just go somewhere else, or where there's less competition and higher margins,
Yeah.
etc. Um,
Go do it in
so I
freaking
started
Texas.
fumbling around like, okay, like we need a brand, we need something that we're going to be able to, you know, promote our cannabis with. So back at the onset, there was tons of ideas thrown around. I had a friend of mine, Grayson, who had
Yep.
worked with me, back up on the hill, and then he moved out to Colorado and,
Mr.
did
4 days.
did an indoor operation out there for a number of years. And when legalization hit, he hit me up and he said, "Hey, I've been thinking about this for a really long time." Like Colorado was a few years ahead of California in terms of
Yeah.
legal cannabis. And he was like, the pre rolls all suck here. People are just
Oh
taking
yeah.
leaf and garbage. And like, you go and buy one of these pre rolls and it just tastes like ass. you
Yeah.
know it's harsh and leafy, and he's like, I want to make a really good pre-roll. And so I said, all right, let's do that. Let's start a pre-roll brand. We'll use like good smalls and flour, and
Hmm.
we'll cure it out right, and we'll make like actual good tasty pre-rolls,
Yeah.
you know that are affordable yet delicious and do the job. um, so we started off there, and when we were thinking about it, I was doing some brand research, and I'm like, okay, well, we want like a name that's simple, like 2 syllables, kind of like
Yep.
Coke or Puma, or any number of these, 4 letter brands.
Yeah.
Um, Grayson originally wanted to call it uh, Fuma, which is
Yeah.
like play off of fumar, you
Yeah.
know,
Smoke.
in
Yeah.
Spanish, exactly like to smoke.
Hmm.
But I did the research and I was like, there's already a bunch of Fuma. It's too close to Puma. You I just didn't like it. Um, so we were mulling around ideas, and we were like, well, Kuda Shuda. And I was like, oh, Kuda. Let's do Kuda. So we came up with Kuda. And then, from there, we were like, well, it's just a random word, doesn't really have a meaning. We need to
Yeah.
assign it something. So we define Kuda as a celebration of the moment,
Yep.
So those times where you're in the zone, and I feel like that kind of goes along with the cannabis experience, and a lot of reasons why people like cannabis, because it brings them in to the current moment.
Yeah.
It kind of like takes away all the BS that goes on in the mind about, what you got going on in the future and what happened in the past, and kind of grounds you in the current moment. I've come to since learn serendipitously that Kuda in the West African cultures is like one's soul essence, in kind of like their dharma, or like, what embodies their existence in reality,
Hmm.
and so to discover one's Kuda is like to discover one's true self, and your genuine path in this reality.
What are the
uh,
odds of that?
so yeah, that was pretty cool. Thank you, Chat GPT, for teaching me.
Yeah, that's where you found. That's where you looked it up.
Yeah, AI does
What
have
What
excuses.
is CUDA?
Yeah, exactly. It means
That's
like
funny, man.
basket in Vietnam, and it has a couple other meanings in different languages, obviously.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
one thing I never knew about your brand is I never knew what CUDA actually meant. I always figured, just based on your love for spirituality and all like the little things you have like all over your farms and little statues or how certain spots are named what they are, and I figured it had to do something with spirituality, but I had no idea that it
Yep.
just was pure organic. You and Grayson just spitballing over a couple
Yep.
pre-rolls.
Yeah, exactly. And so what we started out with was a 5-pack,
Yep.
So we had, 5 8-gram pre-rolls that were straight shaped, kind of like a cigarette.
Yep.
And a lot of the original ones actually had like a traditional, cigarette filter.
Cotton filter in it. Yeah.
Yeah, cotton filter that made it smoother. And so, we've been selling the Kuda brand um, in California on the legal market since it came out 2017, 2018,
Yep.
which is pretty cool. And it's been a huge learning curve, from 2018 to 2023,
Oh yeah.
Um, God, lot
No.
the
Oh
amount of
yeah.
crap I've learned and things I've dealt with has been amazing. Originally the idea was like, we have the farm, we'll package it up ourselves, and we're not going to try to distribute it or do that. We'll lean on a professional distribution company and a professional sales group, and those
Yeah.
guys know what they're doing better than us, right? Well, it turns out the legal cannabis industry was just like a light for moths of these people who just saw it as a quick cash grab,
Yeah.
So you
Which
had
is
guys
unfortunate.
from alcohol who, have done alcohol sales and thought, oh, we're gonna take the alcohol model and do this, or a lot of stores and people just saw it as a quick cash grab because it's so unregulated still.
Yeah.
The DCC, or the main compliance body for California, isn't really regulating the financial transactions, right? So
Hmm.
you can grow all this weed and they're going to monitor how much weed you're growing and, make sure you're not doing anything funny, right? But then as soon as you sell it, there's no insurance that you're ever going to get paid,
Yeah.
right? So I can't tell you how many times, we've made product, done all the hard work, everything, gotten it to a store, it sells, and we just don't get paid,
Yeah.
right? Or a distribution company will do it, sell the product, and then they don't pay you. And then they go out of business. And there's no legal ramifications. There's no way for you to get your money.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's been a hard part of the learning curve, is just realizing, hey, we can't rely on third parties to do this. We have to do it ourselves. If I'm going to have a distribution company distribute it for me and someone else, like, you're just doomed to failure. So that's when I said, you know what? I worked with probably close to 10 different distribution companies,
Hmm.
and none of them worked. So
Yeah.
we said, finally, all right, we're going to have to open up our own distribution company. So fortunately, I found a location in Eureka.
Yep.
And that is the home base of Kuda Cannabis now.
Your new
That's our
spot. Yep.
main distribution center. So, all the product from the farm, originally to Kuda was basically all single sourced, from my farm.
Yeah.
But as we've grown, now we take on other small batch Humboldt County farms, that are meeting our quality,
Yeah.
threshold, and putting their flower as well into our brand. So no
Who's
longer
because
are. Oh, go
go ahead.
ahead.
No, I was saying, who else's brand are you distributing right now?
Oh, we also do distribution for Devi Cannabis,
Yep.
Earl Hill, which is a concentrate brand.
Yep.
And then we package for a couple other brands. One's High
Okay.
Totem, another one is Social, Humboldt Social.
Okay.
So yeah, we do some distribution for some other brands out there. But
Nice.
yeah, we've grown from just a pre-roll brand to now we sell flour, eighths and ounces. We still do the pre-rolls and infusions, and we just brought back the old school bubble hash. So we're
Nice.
selling 1 gram old school bubble hash, which I think is much needed. I love the old school bubble hash. I know, these days it's all about the rosin and live resin and all
Yeah.
this, fancy pantsy hash.
Well, it all
Um,
stemmed from somewhere.
yeah, exactly. The old school bubble hash is like the original, hash that goes back thousands of years, right?
Yeah.
They find it in graves at archaeological sites, that like I remember one in Jerusalem, where someone was giving birth and they found that, the mother was using hash during the labor process,
Okay.
for pain management or what have you.
Yeah, the old
Um,
school chadas, the hand hash.
Yeah, well, what they used to do is when, the plants were, ripening and the THC was coming out, they would, there's two methods. One, they would have some guy just go around naked, run through the field and just get covered in hash, and then they would peel it off them and they make hash that way. Or they would harvest the plants, take the plant and just beat it up against a wall.
Really?
And yeah, and then they'd beat it up until it had big fat cakes, and they'd scrape the hash off. I can't imagine any of that was very good,
No.
but it all starts somewhere.
Yeah. No, that's crazy, man. Yeah, it's super interesting. But that's cool though. I'm glad you guys are bringing back the bubble. That's it's efficient, it's easy. Obviously I have to check it out, but I know like the last couple of years, like on the market with like a lot of those temple balls, and a lot of stuff like that. Those have become really popular. It's kind of old school style, but more new school refined techniques to kind of make it cleaner, taste better, and
Absolutely.
just smoother and everything. So
Yeah, exactly. Like I think our, it's like 60-70% THC, still
nice.
has a really good flavor and it's great, addition for flower, you want add a little pack to the punch,
Yeah.
you sprinkle some to the top of the bowl, or if you're a spliff smoker, you could sprinkle that into your pre-roll.
Yeah.
So I think it's got a lot of uses and it's, super affordable.
Oh, for sure. No, it's definitely. I mean, it's good stuff. I mean, it's got a whole, tons of different variations with it. More moist, kind of drier consistency, whatever. However you guys end up doing it. But yeah, it's super efficient. And yeah, like you said, get that extra just little little punch to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice, man. Well, yeah, like I said, when I was just up there last time, checking out your new distro, it's definitely I love it. It's a great location, right in the middle of downtown. Obviously, yeah, like you said, not super efficient to necessarily be having distro vans and everything coming up all the time to the farms and dealing the driveways and roads and all that, and yeah, it's much more efficient just to bring it down to the town.
Yep, exactly. We have to start, thinking like traditional, business sense. So, how do you optimize and make things efficient and,
Yeah.
cost effective? Because I'm sure, as you know, the margins on, particularly California, legal cannabis has been driven to the point where, last year people were selling their product for underneath their cost of goods. So literally
Yeah.
losing money on every single pound that they
Yeah.
sold because there
It's
was just
horrible.
such a glut of inventory in the market.
Yeah. No, it's horrible, man. I mean, it's really sad to see what's gone on the last year or two.
Yep. Well,
Especially since when I left. I mean, it's a whole different ball game from when I first got out there.
that's what happens when, you kind of allow the powers that be with deep pockets to enter into an industry, in its inception. It's sad to see that a lot of the, mom and pop, the people who really put the love into the cannabis and, had that as a means of supporting their family,
Hmm.
that opportunity being taken away from them in favor of big business. It
Yeah.
is kind of a shame to see. So, we hope to keep that mom and pop legacy alive in Humboldt and provide a means by which, these farmers who have smaller farms, more craft cannabis, can make
Yeah.
a living wage, and have an opportunity to get their product to market, that is of a higher quality than a lot of the other, big brands that you see in California that are just putting, you know, like I'd say dog shit into bags and selling it.
Yeah. companies that can also bleed money and kind of, drive prices down and, eliminate competition a bit too.
Yeah, exactly. The lost leader. Oh no, my sign. Gotta put that back up. Well, there you have it.
It's all good.
Um, no, I'm blocking it.
Yeah, you're fine. You got the other sign behind you.
You guys can see it. Okay,
So did you, I know we were talking last week. Do you have plans to do retail in town as well now?
yes, absolutely. We have now converting our distribution center to a micro business.
Awesome.
So that'll allow us to do more manufacturing as well as a small retail in the front, So we'll
Nice.
be able to kind of go direct to consumer, and now take the cannabis that's directly grown, by our hands all the way to the consumer,
Yeah.
uh, which I
Fully
think is,
vertical. Yeah.
yeah, which is huge.
Oh no. Yeah. It's going to be nice. I'm excited to see that.
We can kind of pass that love on direct to consumer.
Yeah. No, that's going to be great, man. No, like I
You
said,
know,
yeah, I know you've been at it 15 plus years. So, I mean, gotta keep it alive, gotta keep it going. And yeah, I mean, just thinking, I mean, I'm sure you think about it all the time, but just looking back where you started versus where you are now, I've always thought going to all your spots and your whole operation has always been something that really blew my minds when I first moved out there. Just the scale, the magnitude. I mean, just coming down into some of your barns and just having tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of pre rolls and totes and just the efficiencies and everything. It's like, I don't know. I always loved coming down there and seeing everything, hanging out with the guys.
oh God, yeah, I just the stress management of it all has
Oh
been
yeah,
one of those big obstacles for me to overcome.
it's a lot. It's a lot going on, man. It's a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah, well, you can't do it without help, right?
Oh
So,
no,
that's the thing that, I'm super happy of is that I have a team of good people working alongside me. It's because it's one of those things where, if I was doing all of this stuff by myself, like I would never sleep and it would
yeah,
be, you know, just nonstop.
yeah, no. I mean,
So,
it would not work. It would not be as efficient as it is now. That's for sure.
yeah.
So, but yeah, so I mean, I guess that covered some of the questions I had for you. Just kind of your goals for this year. I would say, like you said, probably the retail side of things, and just get this distro continuing to go well and all
Yeah,
that. And
absolutely. I think the goals are, for us to get our own retail and have the micro business established and then just maintain, the relationships that we have with all of our, current retail outlets. Through these past, 5 years, we've been able to kind of see who are the good players and who are the bad players, right? Who are the
yeah,
people who are going to actually pay their bills on time, and who are the guys who are going to kind of just take you for a ride.
yeah,
um, through all that, it was like another point where, we were flirting with failure because, not by a fault of ours, but just the fact of us not being able to collect on invoices,
yeah.
right? So we did everything right. We did our job. We made the product. We got it to the store. We delivered. We paid every single step along the way.
Hmm.
And then essentially we get robbed.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, how are you supposed to survive? How are you supposed to actually, fund a business that is as large scale as you guys have? When at the end of the day, when you're literally growing, paying for product that is just being given away.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
Well, I
no,
think there is some new legislation out there in California that's going to kind of, hold these stores' feet to the fire to where they
that's
can't
good.
continue to own a license and get away with not paying, their vendors. So we'll
Yeah,
see if that passes. I'm totally in favor of it because I think it's going to, it might dampen, a little bit of their buying power, right?
for
But
sure.
whatever they need to, they need to operate their businesses efficiently, right? They can't be buying a bunch of stuff that they're not selling,
Yeah.
and they have to pay their bills. Otherwise, the whole kind of system crumbles.
Yeah. Well, customers will adjust too. I love going to all the stores up there and everything, but at the end of the day, I feel like there's almost too many options at this point, you know?
That's true. It's true.
And,
You
I
go
mean,
in there and you're just like, what do I get? Right?
yeah, how many GMOs, how many gelatos, how many cushions, how many sours, everything. I mean, it's, you get six options of each.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
so,
Which is
but
also a great thing for the consumer. I mean, I remember when
yeah,
I was growing up in being introduced to weed, it was, it was swag and kind bud. And the swag were these pressed bricks from Mexico that were just full of seeds and stems. And, God knows what kind of chemicals were in there because I got many a headache
Oh yeah,
smoking
lots of
that.
Eagle 20.
Yeah, exactly. And then, there was I didn't know what a strain was until I moved to California. Literally, I had no idea there was even strains. It was just swag and kind bud, it was good weed or bad weed. I was like kind of blown away when, I realized like, whoa, there's this huge diversity in cannabis types,
Yeah,
and it's really amazing the different effects that all of these genetics have, right? There's the differences in the cannabinoids themselves, like CBD, CBG, CBN,
yeah,
THC, THCA, blah blah blah. And then
yeah.
on top of that, the terpenes,
Hmm.
which is a thing that I think a lot of people are ill informed about. Everybody looks at the THC percentage and thinks, oh, higher THC, that's going to get me higher. When in
No,
actuality, the terpenes and the synergistic effect that they have with the THC, you can get higher from an 18%, strain that has a huge amount of terpenes in it than you are from a 33% strain that has no terpenes.
yeah,
Because the terpenes actually facilitate, the THC through the blood-brain barrier, and a
yeah,
lot of these terpenes are hormone mimickers. One that everybody kind of knows about is lavender.
yeah.
Lavender, I think, mimics like melatonin, and so when you
The
smell
calming,
lavender,
yeah,
exactly, it helps calm you down and makes you sleepy.
yep,
Um, and I think the other interesting thing is the whole debate, right? Indica and sativa, right?
yeah. No, it's
Indica and sativa, it's kind of like everything's a hybrid at this moment.
yeah,
Indicas were found up in the mountains, kind of like the Kush, Hindu mountains, and sativas were more, kind of equatorial,
yeah.
longer flowering durations. Um, Really, the big differentiator between a sativa and an indica is its myrcene content. And
Okay,
myrcene is the terpene that is going to give you the couch lock. You
yeah,
know, it was funny. I had a guy who was giving a big speech. He was some famous cannabis guy. I forget his name, but a friend of mine had made like this pure myrcene, terpene card, and he
okay.
was like, hey, you want to try this out, but be super careful. Like this is gonna, knock you on your ass. Like you're gonna be falling asleep because it's super high in myrcene. Yeah, oh, whatever. I've been around the block long. Give me that. Smoking it. And then, they're at the thing about to give the speech. The guy's in a seat like this. Yeah, buddy. You know,
That's
so
funny. You need to put those out on the market.
yeah, the pure mercy and help you get to bed.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, it's like you said. Yeah, that whole I like to say it's like the entourage effect, of cannabinoids
Precisely.
and terpenoids
Precisely.
combined. Having high levels of each is really at the end of the day what produces that overall kind of heavy effect, and that's why I feel like where you guys are in Humboldt, just being so close to the coast, but that perfect distance away, you guys have enough sun where everything grows really good and really strong, but also you guys still have like a lot of that coastal fog and that moisture where like, you can get a lot of those terps. And that's why I feel like a lot of the flowers up there from like Northern California are just like, they're different, they're so
Absolutely.
much more different
Absolutely.
and an
Well, and
organic standpoint too.
that's another interesting thing, with the indoor versus outdoor debate.
Hmm.
Outdoor cannabis, mixed like cannabis, like without fail, has higher terpene contents
Yep.
than indoor, you
100%.
know? And I'm sure, maybe one day somebody will kind of figure it out and the technology will be out there. But, basically without fail, your outdoor and your like mixed like cannabis is going to have a higher terpene content than
Yeah.
your, indoor, especially the mass produced, hydro indoors that people are growing.
Oh, those
you
guys
know.
aren't getting more than 2% terps.
Yeah, and
1.5,
it's
2% terps.
exactly,
No.
it's cardboard weed, you know?
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's like 0.5% terpenes,
Yeah.
and yeah, it looks great, and it's crazy and high THC, but it doesn't have the flavor.
Yeah. You're not getting 4, 5, 6% terps on any of that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why also in turn, like a lot of mixed light flower, I know a lot of people are now kind of from a solventless standpoint, kind of going towards, the whole mixed light cultivation because like you said, for one, you're getting higher terps. Two, it's just that whole entourage effect. I mean, you're getting those better, more full spectrum products on the market.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of mind-blowing that you get way better yields for solventless um, from from outdoor and mixed light than you do from indoor.
Yeah.
So no one really freezes indoor flower
No.
because you can't produce it for as cheap, and it literally yields half or a third of what you would get out of a frozen outdoor or mixed light pound.
Yeah. No, it's great. I mean, sometimes that's the way life goes, and
Yep.
things are designed in a way you can't refute nature. And
Yeah, exactly. Can't beat the sun.
no. Well, I mean, that's, I know I was on the last interview I did with Ron. We were having this debate too, and at the end of the day, indoor, like we were talking about earlier with like all the raids and stuff, indoor cultivation only came because it was a way for people to hide. It's,
Absolutely.
it's not, I mean,
Absolutely.
it's on indoor lights are only replicating what, is what nature's intention and nature does.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, yeah, I'm glad to see. I'm glad to see you guys are
Yeah.
still. I know you've wanted to do indoor, in some fashion or subset, here and there, but I'm
Yeah,
glad you guys are
absolutely.
still
Well, I
doing
mean,
what
we're
you're doing.
we're planning on doing an indoor facility actually right next to the distribution center.
Nice.
I do, love indoors, but I love the terpy, like high end indoors,
Yeah.
and so a lot of the indoors that you see, they're cultivating it in rock wool and they're feeding it salts.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to go the other way and use a soil medium and
Yep.
really focus on the terpene production,
Yeah.
you know, because everybody loves high end indoor
Yeah.
weed,
No,
right?
you need more
So
soil grown organic indoor. I mean, I think,
yeah,
I like I said, I love, obviously the whole mixed light outdoor, sun grown everything, but a good quality organic soil grown indoor, I still think at the end of the day, it's sure costs you a lot more, but that's really where a lot of people are going, at
yeah,
least from a
100%.
connoisseur standpoint.
Exactly. The the most educated consumer, they want like the real high end mixed light
Yeah.
because that's kind of where you get the blending, the best of both worlds, the
Yeah.
highest terpene content. It look like you can't tell the difference. You have
Still
to be.
looks still looks super pretty.
It looks like indoors. You can't really tell the difference.
Yeah.
If it's done right, nobody knows the difference.
Yeah. No, definitely. I agree. Well, yeah, I mean like I said, I'm glad you're still doing what you're doing. You've been up there a long time, and it's the name of the game. Just keep rocking with it.
Yep. Yeah, there's been several points, along the ceremony where, I've been defeated and been like, man, I've had enough of this. It's just too much work, too much of a grind. But, we've kind of kept trucking through and, here we are still doing it in 2023. And I don't see any reason why we won't still be doing it in 2028,
Yeah,
2030. I'm in it
exactly.
for the minute, like I was telling guys the other day, my 3-year plan has turned into a 10, 15-year plan. So at this point, it's a legacy thing, and it's something I take pride in, and that we'll continue to do. And I want to be able to provide, high quality, good cannabis to the people of California, and hopefully one day, the rest of the United States and the world.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, like, yeah, we've had a lot of talks about that recently. But yeah, I mean, you love doing what you do, and you got to just keep doing what you love. So I'm
Yeah,
happy for that.
absolutely.
Happy for you guys. And yeah, I'd
Thank
like
you.
to say, yeah, trust me, I've remember having a lot of beers over the years with you. Hearing a lot of the trials and tribulations, even from our standpoint up there. It's the end of the day. Tough week, tough weekend, hot days, long summer. Some of those sauna talks I remember having at your place.
Yep.
That's one
Yep.
thing. That's one thing I really do miss about going about your place. That sauna you got at your house.
Oh yeah.
The
I'm all
woodworker.
about the sauna and the deliberate cold exposure.
Oh yeah.
I would say, those
Deliberate cold
things
exposure.
those things have really positively impacted my life.
Oh,
You
100%.
know, doing like a cold plunge and just sitting in the freezing cold water for a couple
Yeah.
minutes a day. It's so good for your body, your mind, everything.
Yeah.
You know, that's the the Finn in me.
Yeah.
My Finnish heritage will live on.
Oh, yeah. Well, I got a couple more questions for you. I know I was looking at your website the other day, just kind of seeing all the products and strains you guys got going. But what are you growing this year? I know it's planting
Oh,
season.
oh man, we got a laundry list.
Yeah.
Um, Here, let me see if I can pull up some
So
of
say,
the.
what are you most stoked on?
I'm a huge fan of GMO. You want to talk about
Yeah.
some favorite strain stuff? I love GMO. There's some debate whether it's like I said, everything's a hybrid. But I feel like GMO is really kind of more sativa leaning. The
Hmm.
way it grows is like a sativa. It really
Yeah, it's super
stretches.
tight, spindly, long. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah, but it just has such an amazing terp profile,
Oh yeah.
and it's not something that you're gonna smoke and, kind of get knotted out on. Um, so we're doing a bunch of really cool GMO crosses. We got a couple
Nice.
GMO rainbow belts crosses.
Okay.
Um, what's another one? One it's artificial red. Maybe it's I don't remember. God, I got to figure out the exact cross, but it's something by GMO. We have like 5 different GMO crosses, and then we're doing GMO, and then we're doing, a lot of the basic stuff that people like, fan favorites like,
Yeah.
Gelonade,
Yep.
blueberry.
Hmm.
For our set of cultivation, we grow a diverse number of strains for our brand, because we're selling in the confines of the legal market and people want variety and
Yeah, they want
choice.
options.
They want the Baskin Robbins and,
Yeah.
whatever, 57 flavors.
Yeah.
Um, whereas traditionally it was a lot of monocropping of OG and gases and runs
Blue
and
dreams. Yeah.
gelato and stuff that was going to sell quickly and everybody wants kind of more on the black market.
Yeah.
So we're kind of real diversified in our strain selections. I could read you off, since you are so interested in the strains,
Well,
I
you
could
know
read.
I love strains, but and the GMO does super good for solventless too. I will say that the GMO, all those GMO and GMO crosses usually dump really
Oh,
hard from a solventless standpoint.
absolutely, absolutely.
So that's
Okay,
gonna help. That's gonna be good.
let me tell you some of our strains that we're doing. Okay, we're doing a wedding cake. We're doing acai, frosted cherry, pinnacle, which is a really cool, like gassy purple one. Blueberry, like I said, lemon cherry gelato, because that's a
Nice.
fan favorite.
Yeah,
Everybody
everybody
loves
wants that right now.
blueberry. The turpot, that's another one of my favorite strains. If you get a really well done lemon cherry gelato,
Yeah.
the flavor just coats your mouth. It's so good and rich. It definitely
Yeah.
packs a punch, but I don't think it's gonna knock you out.
Yeah.
We're doing a hazmat OG,
Nice.
which
From
is
archive.
kind of
Yep.
like a good, OG. Then we have Tokyo Snow,
Ooh.
um, Big Block, just kind of like, high THC. A lot of these strains are, higher THC because,
Yeah.
like I said, the market is kind of geared towards like this,
Yeah. They want
high
the high
THC.
20s. Yeah. Low 30s. Everything. Yeah. It sells quicker.
Yeah, the Gen Z, that's one of the GMO crosses,
Okay.
Rainbow Belts by GMO, and then there's
Ooh.
Dark Rainbow, which is another of the
Yep.
GMO.
That's a
Uh,
GMO rainbow belts. Yeah. From
yeah,
archive.
exactly. Let me see if I can find.
Frosted cherries is good too. I like that's a really good one. The SI is it's solid. It's not really something
Yeah, it
it's
doesn't have
good.
the greatest terps, but it does have, you know,
Probably grows well up there too.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, here we go. Then we've got, oh yeah, the GMO by OZ Kush. That's
Nice.
another one. Motor Breath Banana Punch
Okay.
is another good one. Cherry Dosido.
Ooh.
Gotta
Okay.
love your Dosido.
Yep.
Big Block. That's what I was trying to say earlier. Tokyo Snow.
What's that?
Uh,
Do you know?
I don't know the exact lineage. I can't
That one sounds
remember.
interesting.
Yeah, it's another good, producer, high THC, good terps,
Yeah.
kind of at this point. A lot of the strains that I'd like to see come back
Yeah, tell
are
me about
like
some of
those,
those, like your old school
those
favorites.
lower, they're like the lower THC old school strains, right? Your Blue Dream, Amethyst,
Mhm.
what else is there? Oh, Northern Lights,
Yeah, the
Cognac,
NL5. Yeah.
Jack Herrera, all
Yeah.
those things are great, but they don't the THC is just not there,
Yeah.
and everybody's breeding for high THC, so that's why I think, a lot of those old school strains, Panama Red, like, you might never see those come back just
Yeah.
because they don't produce the high THC. Maybe somebody will breed them out so you get that kind of same terp profile,
Mhm.
at a much higher THC. Um, but yeah, I'd love to see a lot of that old school stuff come back.
Yeah, same. I've been seeing a lot of
I
people have kind of been gearing towards that. Like, a lot of people, as much as I love them and, not bashing them by any means, but all the gelatos, the runces, all that stuff. People, the market's so flooded with it right now that I feel like a lot of people want to grow, like, the sours again, the OGs, a lot of these
headband.
hazes, headband, yeah, all the hazes, all that stuff.
Oh
It's so
man, the
unique.
super silver haze.
Oh
Love that
yeah,
one.
no, one of my
That's a
partners, that's his favorite.
that's a morning time, like, wake you up strain,
That's anxiety for me.
Really?
Oh yeah, I always like the OGs. I liked a lot of the Kushes. OGs obviously probably one of my all-time favorites. I really like the Granddaddy Purple. I love the old Granddaddy Purple. Um, Blue Dream's good too. I just never was really big on sativa leaning strains.
Yeah, yeah. I
It's
love
just for me that's it was a little bit before my time, and I think growing up, and like I could always call that it's like high school weed.
Yeah, totally.
So the diesels and so a lot of those old like master cushes and bubba cushes and stuff like
Ooh,
that. But
love a good Bubba Kush.
yeah, you and Ron both.
Yeah.
I know Ron
We
always
had
talks about the bubba.
this strain a friend of ours made. It was Bubba X,
Yep.
and he like recrossed the Bubba back into itself several times, and it was just so like the Master Kush. I love that old school Master Kush.
Yeah.
You that terp profile is one that I always really loved.
Yeah. No, that's funny you said that was literally the exact same strain that Ron was talking about when I interviewed him. Just
Yeah.
his, if you could bring one thing back, he said it was the Bubba X,
Yeah, we had this other strain, same breeder,
the Black
old school.
Kush.
Yeah, we called the Forbidden Fruit, the Black Kush,
Yeah.
and we lost the genetic.
Yep.
That was one that if I had a time machine, I'd go back and get a few cuttings of that. See,
Yeah.
probably didn't test where we want it to in terms of the THC, but
Yeah.
it just had the most unique flavor that really I haven't seen again. You know.
Hmm. No,
But
that's
I do still love the runts and the gelatos.
of course, yeah. It's hard not to, I mean, it's like I
That's
said,
one of
I don't hate on anything. I don't hate on anybody and their strains, and it's just I more dislike some of the industry trends, where it goes, and
yeah.
obviously I love it all, man. I love the cookies, I love all the the runces, all the lemon the gelato crosses, everything, and it's all unique in its own way.
Yeah.
I just
Well,
wish it was a little bit more diversified now.
I think you'll see that happen more and more as more and more states go legal and
Yeah,
it becomes more of a, legal regulated industry. The end consumer wants diversity. They want to have, it's like with wine or any kind of connoisseur object. Um, everybody loves the flavors and trying different things and, a different, flavor for different setting or different ambiance. Um, what's held that back is kind of the black market. You have kind of these middlemen and traffickers who are dictating, for them, it's what sells the fastest, what's the easiest.
yeah,
Oh, well, everybody wants gas. They want the purple gas. So the buyers are coming in and saying I need nothing but runs, I need nothing but gelato, I need nothing but OG,
Yeah.
and so it kind of created, in the black market culture that previously existed and, still exists to some extent, is kind of like this, homogeny of a small number of strains,
Hmm.
but, I think as time goes by and, legalization comes out, you'll see that the end consumers, they want it all. They want the variety.
Yeah.
And so, as more and more shops get open and access is, made towards everybody, there's going to be a need for diversity in strains. And I think that's something that's also going to set a lot of these smaller, boutique cannabis producers apart, is they're going to find their specific strain, that nobody else has. And that's going to be kind of their, way to support themselves long term.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's important, and I'm hoping that's the way that things start shifting. So I know it's been a weird couple of years, but
Yeah.
love to
It'd be
see more
great if I could
diversification.
just grow one strain, and just do that and sell it all. But
Whole field of runs.
yeah, exactly. But it's easier, right? You get to
Yeah,
know the plant better, and each plant has specific things that it wants, right? Some want more calcium, some want more magnesium, some you need to give them higher potassium. Some like to get fed heavy, some like to get fed lighter. So
yeah,
having all these different strains is definitely it's hard on the cultivator, and it kind of keeps them on their toes.
yeah.
Because they have to be really monitoring the plant and looking for all the signs of, deficiencies and what have you. But
Well, it
at the
makes a
end of
good
the
grower
day,
too. Makes a great grower.
absolutely, absolutely, and at the end of the day, here we're a legal brand selling legal cannabis, so we need to kind of give the market what they want, and that is diversity of strains and flavors.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. So, yeah, I'm excited to see everything this year. I know we're getting close to an hour mark here on this call, and we'll probably like to keep it at about an hour for these interviews. But yeah, man, I really appreciate everything. I know I'm gonna be coming up there soon, and I would love to do some walkthroughs at your place, and the next couple, maybe the
We'll get
next.
a sauna cold plunge going, bud.
Yeah, no, for sure. I love the wood burner up there. That's
Yeah,
Man, that's yeah, some of those winter days or those early fall nights up there, hitting that sauna, at the back and forth. Yeah, you, me, and a couple other guys. Those were great times. Go home,
absolutely.
just sleep like an angel.
Oh yeah, really
Yeah.
does help you sleep well.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, like I said, yeah, I'd love to. Maybe next interview we do is at your distro, at your facility, do some walkthroughs and show the people what you got going on up there.
Yeah, absolutely. We could do a little farm tour and, check
Oh
out
yeah,
all the strains in live time,
yeah.
see how they're growing and maybe get some of the cultivators to, say a word or two.
Yeah, no, that's my goal is with my guys and myself, we're gonna come up there probably right when first depth's coming down. So probably what, like 10 weeks, 10, 11
Absolutely.
weeks. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So we'll be up
Say,
there.
say, you know, July, August.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, first couple weeks in July would be nice and hit all
July
the
through
guys up there.
October is the best, that's when you got all the kind of things happening.
Yeah, start getting full terms planted, everything, and everything's really looking really good. But yeah, I want to do all the guys up there. I know I've already talked to everyone else, so it'll be fun to. I mean, it'll be a nice day. It'll be like the old days, just
Yeah, absolutely.
driving around, bootstrapping it with my cooler and my little fanny pack of water, and call it a
Yeah,
day.
love it.
Definitely, man. Well, cool. Well, I really appreciate everything, and
Yeah, keep up
yeah,
the good work. So how things going with Trusted Source?
it's going good. It's definitely going good. We just started our first product release this week, so getting all the IP protection for breeders and strains just finally started. It's been a long process the last year and a half since I left, but it's everything's finally coming to fruition. So we're stoked. We're
Yeah,
definitely
well,
super stoked.
nothing that's good happens fast, right?
Nope.
It's taken me, 15 years to get to this point, and I think probably got another 15 until you have
Oh
a
yeah.
polished,
Oh yeah. No, a good
So,
friend of mine actually told us, he said, when starting new businesses, especially in this industry, it's going to take 3 times as much money as you thought, and it's going to take you twice as long. So,
oh yeah, or 3, 4 times as long.
yeah, no, that's just the mentality we've been living on in the last year and a half, and it's going to be what pushes us forward. So,
Yeah,
good days, bad days, but it's all, I wouldn't have it any other way at the end of the day.
absolutely.
Well, cool. Well, all right, Max. Well, I will let you get back to your busy schedule in your life. I appreciate everything. And yeah, we will chat soon. All right.
Absolutely. Take care,
Appreciate you,
John.
buddy. Yep.
Later.